Pune here? Okay, 5 people. And all of you are born and bred Punegars? Okay. So I find in poetry meets in Mumbai, most poets come from outside Bombay. It's almost like my city is not very conducive to poetic sentiment. As if Mumbaikars only, we live with our souls in train schedules and office cubicles. So this is my story of how I went looking for my poetry and inspiration in my city. It's called Flamingos. I grew up in a city where the names of places are more poetic than the places themselves. Irla, Sahar, Andheri. And like every suburban Mumbaikar, I knew the 2-kilometer radius around my patch of land, and I knew it really well. Seriously. I knew how many black pits there were in Marul village. I knew how many potholes there were on the road to the international airport. Everything else was just another jungle. So in 2005, when an HR person spelled out the word Chinch Pokli to me on the phone, I laughed. I'd heard of it once. I'd heard of it in a flop film called Roop Ki Rani Choro Ka Raja, where the heroine's name, Sridevi, her name was Princess Chai Mein Chini of Chinch Pokli. He didn't find it funny. Apparently none of you do either. I did, I laughed, but he didn't find it funny, but he gave me the job anyway. All along I kept thinking that this place sounded like it must be somewhere in interior Karnataka. It turns out it was in Bombay. It was in South Bombay. Not the South Bombay of the posh accents and the boys with Parsi English. This was the South Bombay of the mill land, which is where the history of my city was written by the mill workers riding the textile boom right into the 80s. It was all gone, dead by the time I started working. It was lost to years of labour negotiations and trade strikes. All the mill workers and their families had been displaced, rendered homeless, identityless, and the only things that remained of them were one rusted gate here, one broken pillar with weeds around it, which hinted that a different people and a different set of lives was lived there once. I walked into that place every day in my Van Heusen outfit, new economy coming into the old, taking over the old. And every day that I walked into that place, the geographical boundaries of my mind increased just a little bit. And over time, the poet in me joined hands with the historian and started to write love poems to my city's history. Mills to malls, I said, tread respectfully when you walk over the bones of my city's past. One day, I took a walk outside the back gate of my office. And behind it, I found there was another disused mill, because that's what the entire area was full of, mill after mill after mill that had been shut down. And the opposite side of the road was a row of shanties. There were kids playing with cycle tires and sticks. The shop sold phantom cigarettes. All of these are things that I'd left back in the 1980s, and it was like they were frozen there at a time when the men still had jobs as dyers and weavers, and the women had babies to feed and food to feed them. At the end of the road was this tiny station with a board that said Cotton Green. That was the extent that I dared to go to. I turned around and came back. I looked it up on the internet and there was nothing under Cotton Green. So I thought I might have dreamt it. Too much sun can do that to somebody who lives inside a cubicle all day long. A week later, I went on that walk again and Cotton Green station was still there. This time I went in and I decided to take a train ride down. I rode it all the way to Andheri, which is where I live. This patch of land connected to my patch of my island. I started taking that train ride often. Every day, in fact. A few weeks later, I saw this familiar name in the newspaper. It was there under this National Geographic style photograph of pink birds taking flight. And it said Flamingos. I thought, Flamingos, those don't really exist today. My city is one of pigeons with stomach upsets and crows with criminal intent. Flamingos can't be real. They look too tall and too pink and they look too ridiculous to exist, basically. Flamingos exist in Alice's Wonderland. But this was a photograph, and it said that flamingos took flight from the marshlands that they lived in year-round. Cotton Green, it said, was the station to get down at if you wanted to go and see them. That morning, when I got down at the train, or got out of the train, I looked up and I expected to see pink birds flying around. Of course, there were none. Then I took out my newspaper. It said Cotton Green, Flamingos. Real place, real birds. On my right were all these mill buildings and new construction coming up. The city just palpitating in the new and the old happening together. On my left was this blaze of greenery in a shade that you never see in Mumbai in the summer. And I thought that the marshlands must be just after that. Someday, I said, someday, instead of taking right, I'll take left and I'll go and see the Flamingos. That evening, I took a cab ride home. The next day, I was sent out of town on work. I came back a week later and my train pass was not valid, and it was another week before my train pass was valid enough for me to be able to get down at Cotton Green Station, by which time the rains had started. This entire story was about Flamingos taking flight just before the monsoons. I hope that the Flamingos had had a nice flight. And I said, okay, nice dream, pretty dream for a Mumbaiker to have on a train journey before having to get down and go to office. The next year, there was one more story of Flamingos, this time with a different picture. This time I said I'll do it. This time, I'll get down there, take a left turn instead of going to work, and I'll go and see the Flamingos take off. Just as soon as this meeting is done, just as soon as I finish that conversation about my bonuses, tomorrow we are going to talk about my promotion, bas wo khatam kar lenge, then I'll go. I'm wearing high heels today and it's really hot. I'll do it tomorrow. That day never happened, and a few weeks later I got transferred back to the Andheri office. There was no need for me to take that train journey down. Every week I would think, someday I'll take that train ride down and I'll take left and I'll go and see the Flamingos. That day never came. I don't even know whether the marshlands exist anymore. Cotton Green has been dubbed Lower Colaba. Colaba is one of the posh areas of Bombay. And the mill buildings have all been raised away, so more and more of them are going away, and there are malls and fancy restaurants there. But my city is full of people who struggle to find inspiration in every waking moment. There are so few poets, so few people living with a sense of there is more to this life than what we see in office cubicles. And I think I have a different city in my head. I know of a city where there are mill workers' children biting on phantom cigarettes and playing with cycle wheels. There is a city where pink birds take flight at the start of every summer. And my city, my island, which was a Portuguese princess's dowry once, which is said to be blessed by Annapurna, my city has flamingos.